headache or something like that. And 50% is purely spiritual. The root cause of your problem is spiritual. The type of spiritual problem that we're going to talk about affects most people. It's not like it affects only Indians, not foreigners. It affects people throughout the world, no matter what your cultural background or social status. But it manifests in many different ways. And the sad thing is that so many people have had to suffer for so many years when, if they'd known earlier about the spiritual remedy, they could have been cured within a few months. So if the root cause is spiritual, then you have to have a spiritual remedy. So up to 80% of our problems stem from the spiritual realm. What are the different kinds of problems in the spiritual realm? One could be destiny. We all heard about how some people got saved from the 26/11 attack, how some people died. That is destiny. Then it could be black magic, voodoo, we've heard about those things. Being possessed and affected by ghosts. We have so much footage in our ashram which shows us how people are possessed. Then you can have distressing vibration in the vastu. Now all of us are familiar with that because today it's very fashionable to do vastu cleansing. Then, which most of you may not be aware of, is distress due to our ancestors who have passed away. So today I'll be dealing with ancestral problems which affect most of us in our day-to-day life. According to the science of spirituality and unknown to modern science, as I said earlier, 80% of our problems are due to spiritual factors. So, the spiritual is the root problem. And what happens is that our ancestors give us some kind of distress through their subtle bodies. The subtle bodies of our ancestors. When I say subtle bodies, what do I mean? See, when we die, we shed our physical body. But the rest of us, our personalities, our likes, our dislikes, our desires, our feelings, our disappointments, ego, all that continues. So what happens is that sometimes it's like a dark cloud over a certain family. Everything goes wrong for them. The mother may be having a problem, the father, everyone. It's almost like everything is going wrong for that particular family. This is because of ancestor problems. The difficulties that are created due to departed ancestors come in various forms. So the problems could be financial, marital, many of these. What are the kind of problems that you might see? One would be inability to get married. Then it could be marital disharmony, difficulty in conceiving a child, some kind of addiction. Approximately 70% of addictions are due to ancestors who passed away. Sometimes going blank in an examination, even though you're well prepared. Loss of a job, miscarriages, bearing mentally challenged children or children with special needs, and death during childhood. So these are some of the signs of ancestral problems. How would you know if you have ancestral problems? How would we know? There are two rules of thumb. One is that if at an intellectual level you find that no matter what you do, no matter what remedy you do take, it's not helping you at all. That problem is persisting. For instance, there was this man, he had a rash, eczema on his hand. Now this happened when he was 19 years old. Up to the age of 45, he still had it. He had tried every conceivable doctor, skin specialist, every kind of medicine, homeopathy, whatever. It would not go. Then, in a matter of 6 months of doing the remedy, he was helped. That rash, which hadn't gone for 40 years or whatever, 30 years, it left. Then he stopped doing the remedy. Guess what? It recurs. So this tells us that it is a spiritual problem. Because all these years they tried all kinds of medicines, nothing moved. As soon as he tried the spiritual remedies, it helped him. So one way of knowing is that I've tried everything, nothing works. The other way of knowing that this is a spiritual problem and it's an ancestral problem, when you find that, say, out of 5 members in a family, 4 have some problem. The father has lost his job, the mother is depressed, the daughter can't get married, even though she's beautiful, talented, clever, everything. The son can't pass his exam. Every time he goes to give the exam, something happens, somebody dies, he can't give the exam, or he falls ill, something or the other. It's like some hurdle continuously. Then you know that this is an ancestral problem. Now let's see who is included in our ancestors. Now as I told you, the subtle bodies, that means not the physical, but all our desires, our feelings, all those, that part of us. All the subtle bodies of our known and unknown departed relatives from many previous generations also. And for a woman, not only her parents and ancestors, but also her husband. And why is this? Because when she gets married, she gets all the privileges and assets of being with that family. Therefore, she has to have both families' problems, ancestors' problems from both sides. Her own family plus her husband's family. Along with this, the subtle bodies of departed relatives from previous births. And even if your descendants, say a child dies, would be included in this ancestor, even though he's not technically an ancestor. So then we would want to know up to which generation of ancestor is most likely to affect us. So it would be the most impact, the greatest impact would be from the first 3 generations. That means parents, grandparents and great-grandparents. They will impact us the most. Then to some extent the last 7 generations. And beyond the 7th generation they don't affect us much. This is because the give and take account with ancestors is fully completed, or almost fully completed. Hence in the next birth, the give and take account with the ancestors of the present birth will be negligible. If there is a sizable give and take account that remains, then we are born again in that same family. Please note that close friends can't affect us. Then, this is a question that I used to always ask. My grandparents loved me so much. They adored me. Why would they want to hurt me deliberately? Why would they want to give me any kind of distress? So, the reason that they give us distress is because they have unfulfilled desires. They may be unable to move on in the realms, the higher realms. They want to move on and they can't. Sometimes they maybe give us distress because they have unfulfilled desires. Desires could be such like they are angry that whatever inheritance they've given, you have not used it the way they wanted you to use their inheritance. Supposing they wanted something done and you have not done it that way. Or they have such an attachment to the family They want everything to be done their way. Ancestors could also be addicted. They could have such desires as smoking, drinking, sex, food, even TV. So, how do they want to fulfill their desires? They take advantage of the remaining give and take between us and them. And they possess their descendants and fulfill their desires. Departed ancestors trouble their descendants instead of others. Why? Even though they may have a give and take account with others, they will trouble their own descendants because the bond between blood relations is the strongest. Ancestors at a spiritual level of 20 to 30%. This is what the soul of a person who is at a spiritual level of 20 or 30% would look like. You can see that it's very dark and heavy. So these, at this level, our ancestors are in a lot of distress. They lack the spiritual strength to go to a higher spiritual realm. And we as their descendants on earth have the ability to do something for them, to let them progress to a higher spiritual realm. So they create problems in our lives. I can give you an example. For instance, supposing you were having a lovely meal with your family in a nice warm house, and your ancestor is waiting outside in a bit cool, without proper clothes, without any food. How will he draw your attention? You can't understand his language. You can't see him. How will you draw his attention? The only way he can draw your attention is by throwing a stone into your house. It's like that. That is why our ancestors give us distress or pain, because the only language that we understand is the language of pain. Only on earth's plane do we have the ability to do something for our departed ancestors. Their relatives in the other plane are much more or less in the same mood as they are, so they can't help much. And in the present times, we don't have that extrasensory perception to such a level that we can see what problems our ancestors are having. So the only way they can appeal to us is by giving us some distress. So they create this distress in their descendants' lives so that the descendants take some notice. And when they are in pain, when you and I have some problems, perhaps we will